Welcome to another live stream. I know it's late, and I never schedule these, so hopefully someone will be out there. But I just couldn't sleep, and I thought, well, maybe some other targeted individuals will be out there dealing with insomnia, maybe a noise campaign. Maybe they've just adapted to the lifestyle of a night owl to avoid harassment. You never know. I know a lot of targeted individuals develop phobias. That's part of the strategy of gang stalking, and it goes into gaslighting eventually. Um, and targets are harassed wherever they go. And for me, I just started to avoid anything that was unpleasant. Of course, you only have so much energy. You only have so much left to to regulate with, to live. And the gang stalking, well, it has a way of sucking the life out of you. And why put yourself through any more than you have to? A lot of targeted individuals do that. They might become agoraphobic. Some targets, they talk about, having fear of public places. Some targets even leave the workplace or the workforce altogether because of the harassment they're getting. And it doesn't look like anybody's out there yet. I'm assuming that I am live right now. It appears that everything is working properly. Hopefully, hopefully this is what I think it is. But it is late. And tomorrow is Monday. My car broke down today. I went out after the second delivery. The smoke started coming out of it, and the radiator's got a leak. So unfortunately, I have a little bit of a vacation here. And I planned on working today. What are you going to do? And I didn't expect everyone to be asleep. It doesn't look like anyone is out there yet. But anyway, targeted talk late night, the witching hour. A lot of people will deal with things late at night. A lot of targets will talk. I know it happens to me. Even if you fall asleep, for some reason, at least for me, between 2 and 4 in the morning, it can get kind of strange. Some targets will talk about that. Of course, it's a famous, the thing that's in the movies and everything in Hollywood at 3 o'clock. I think Amityville Horror put that out there for everybody, but it's there. And you'll wake up, you'll have these thoughts, or you'll be dealing with maybe somebody attacking you. Targets get assaulted in vulnerable conditions. One of them is, when you're trying to sleep or in the privacy of your own home. You get all these attacks. A lot of targets will talk about different synchronized timing that they deal with things. Maybe they're trying to eat. Maybe they get in the shower. You feel vulnerable. Not only that, but a lot of targets will get directed conversations in street theater involving things of the personal nature. And, you just don't know. You don't know what you're going to be dealing with as a target, and that's designed that way to get your attention. Whether you're getting directed conversations about something you're doing that no one should know about, it might even be something that you're just thinking about. A lot of targets will go, out away from maybe the broadcast towers or the cell towers or everything. They'll get out, way out, thinking that they'll find solace, only to return to deal with, an even more perplexing scenario. How do they know? I was 20 miles out in the middle of nowhere, and yet somehow, some way, they were watching you. You may have, even been, covered in a place that's heavily wooded, try to avoid satellites or something else. And then, of course, the target is dealing with all kinds of speculation on scalar waves or maybe some type of implant or some type of drone or nanotechnology that has invaded their life. You just don't know. But there is no privacy for targets. And I was joking around with a lady one time. I think I was in line at the store before they had all the self checkouts, and I think I had something in the cart and I forgot to put it up on the conveyor. I was getting my groceries and everything, and I said, "Oh no, here, oh, I don't want to walk out of here with that." "Oh yeah, oh, you're one of those. You're by the honor system." I said, "Nobody gets away with anything." And she looked at me and she said, "You're right. There's always someone watching." And there is. And, that's the thing that, it's funny though. That's the thing that everybody, needs to realize. But when the funny thing is the perps, they do a lot of things that they don't think people are going to see. Right. It's just them. It's like, it's their little collective. And as long as they're part of that little collective or whatever, they're part of that hive, they don't have to worry about anything. They don't have to worry about, anybody, coming after them. And I've talked about the inconsistencies before, because targets get a lot of accusations. They will deal with the directed conversations involving, the smear campaign or other little games. And of course, it doesn't really add up, because you can look around and you can see plenty of people doing horrible things or have been convicted of doing horrible things. And they're not dealing with that type of harassment. They're not dealing with gang stalking, right? They're not. They're not being blackballed, right? They seem to be living a fairly comfortable life, maybe even into their elder years. They've got a family, a lot of money, whatever, and it's consistent. It's obvious. And I've mentioned many times that one of the benefits of gang stalking is waking up to see what is going on around you. But it becomes difficult as you move through time, as you're dealing with these things, because it's like that movie Fallen with Denzel Washington, and the time is on the side of them, and there you are. You might be dealing with deprivation. You're dealing with isolation and so on and so forth, and it just seems like everybody else is kind of floating through everything. And what do you do? And I've mentioned that for a targeted individual, that taking advantage of the time that you have to maybe study or educate yourself or whatever it's very important, because the default program of your mind is to ruminate. I was doing that tonight. I thought, man, you know what? I'm just going to do a show. I'm going to get on and do a live stream, and we'll see what's going on, because I know that there are a lot of targets who are dealing with the same things that I'm dealing with. And, sometimes insomnia, sometimes the late night activity is just where we meet up. And tonight, that's where we are. And I'm going to see who's out there. Looks like we've got a couple people, if nothing else. Ernie, welcome to the live stream. John the Baptist, welcome. Nicholas Boserman, great to see you as always. We've got a moderator. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. John the Baptist says, sometimes I think we give them too much power, Okay. Charlie Wilson, welcome to the live stream. Well, that's an interesting comment, because it does work that way. And I've mentioned that when you if you really want to make the stalkers angry, if you want to get under the skin of the perp, you don't even notice them. In fact, you don't even know what gang stalking is, right? What are you talking about? What's wrong with that person? Well, I don't know. It looks like they're trying to get your attention. Really? Huh? Okay, yeah. And you don't give an inch. You don't give any kind of reaction. Oh, they hate that. They do. They need this stuff. There's a lot of different ways that this works. There could be people getting paid. There's people that are influenced demonically. There's people that are just sadistic. There's the social dynamics where the target starts to experience the effects of harassment. They might be paranoid. They might start talking about it. They might get angry. They might whatever. And then, of course, the indoctrination, pulls people in who didn't even know anything about it, right? But there you are, acting erratic, or at least in their, for you, actually you'd be doing okay still. If they knew what you were dealing with, of course, they wouldn't be critical of your behavior. They just, they'd pat you on the back and say, well, if it was me, I'd probably be shooting people by now. But, they don't know. So they're going to think that, you've got some kind of bipolar thing, or, you got a persecutory delusion or whatever. Forbid you try to explain what's happening. You do that, you're going to be in trouble for sure. That's just the way it is. And let's see here. What else we got out there? Oh, okay. Holy Water, welcome to the live stream. Let's see here. Holy Water has a comment. Has anyone noticed that? And I've got a cover. Oh, there, we kind of moved a little bit. Has anyone noticed anger makes you initiate with them or gravitate around them? I think I read that correctly. I don't know. I mean, it depends on what you're dealing with, right? But I think that, and I'm not exactly sure what you're saying by saying that, but I think that anytime the target is vulnerable, they're gonna come running, right? It's the fox to the hen house. Anytime there's blood in the water, the sharks they come for dinner, And I know that for a fact. I've talked about that before. There's days where the perps they know better. This is a waste of their time, unless they're those ones that want to ruin it. If you're happy-go-lucky and you're just skipping along, whistling Dixie, and they love to throw a banana peel out in front of you. But if you're on guard and you're bracing for it, and you've got it down, you're in the zone, you're not getting too excited about anything, and you're level-headed, you're being realistic, and you're not letting things get to you, but at the same time you're feeling fairly peaceful. That's when you got the power, right? You realize what's going on around you. You realize that eventually these people are going to be judged. You realize that Jesus Christ is going to return. You realize the reality of what they're doing, and it's not going to work, and you don't feel deprived. You kind of pity them at that point. You see the blindness. They're going to change their mind, and that's when you usually, or at least sometimes, you can experience a change in your harassment, and they've got to get you off guard. They've got to let you forget about this whole thing and start wanting stuff again. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? To start dating or whatever. They give you a little bit. To remind you, because you've acclimated, you're bracing for it. You're getting to that place where you're living by protocols. You're not, giving into the emotional manipulation, and it's just not having the effect that is desired. They can't manipulate you, but then they'll change, right? Sometimes they'll do that just to see if the target will come back out and try again. Whether they're going to go hide in your house or, you going to come out of there, Billy? Huh? Going to go to the restaurant again, Bill? And, they just want to look. But when you do that, when you figure it out, the veteran targets know that. I've experienced that. And, of course, I've mentioned before, you can't expect logic from these people. That's a real vulnerable thing. But you forget. They might wait a while. You don't know. Is it over? And I've even seen it to where they'll say things like, "Well, you win. You're free. Go fly away, little birdie." And they'll leave you alone, maybe even for years. Little comments, "Well, you won that one. Whatever, just get out of here." Yeah, well, you're going to be one of the only ones that make it. And they're just baiting you. They just changed their little game. I've seen it before many times. And then just when you think it's safe to get back in the water, right? There they are waiting, and they're already surrounding you anyway. It's like the perps and the targeted individual community. They try to provoke you, but first they'll get your attention. They'll be nice. "Oh, you helped me. I liked your comment," or "That was a good show. You're so sweet." And they'll give you all these comments, and they'll pretend like they're your friends. And then, of course, all of a sudden they'll have an attitude or whatever. Or you said something that triggered, you're one of them or whatever. And then, of course, if you react, then it's manufactured justification, right? But yeah, they like to do that too. But getting back into that supposed freedom, that switch and the harassment the targets deal with. Well, then what happens? Well, you start, making plans. Well, I don't know, man. You gonna start living again, Billy? Well, I think I will. Maybe I'll go back to school or something, and maybe I'll finance that nice car that I was looking at, and maybe I'll even start dating, and yeah, this is. And you expect people to be normal. You're skipping along. And it can even happen just during the week. And it takes you by surprise. And they like that. Why? Well, because it's max emotional manipulation, right? And it doesn't, and you forget how crazy this stuff is. You forget how illogical they can be. The unorthodox techniques that they will use, the nonsensical, conversation that they'll have there. They'll just come up and say something rude, or they'll just do something out of the blue, and you're like, "Hey, you can't do that," and sure they can. What the hell were you thinking, right? And of course, and then there you are back in the wonderful world of gang stalking. You never left, like Mike Enselin on 1408, where he thought maybe he just, had a near-death experience and just went back to his life. But really, he never left 1408. He just thought he did. Targets will deal with that kind of experience. Okay, let's see what you guys are talking about out there. Oh, Nicholas Boserman has a confession. "I learned to stop getting angry every time I flipped out. I went to jail. They'd set me up." Oh, yeah. I didn't know you went to jail, Nick. Sorry they got you. They will do that, and they'll set you up. You don't even have to do anything. I had a girl lie and say that I punched a jukebox one time. I didn't. I don't even think I did any damage to it, man. And I had to, it was, I don't remember how long I was in there, but I had to go to jail for, like, it was a couple days or something on that one. And I was like, what the hell? I was just trying to, I was, hitting the buttons trying to get, cause it took my $1 and whatever the money that I put in there. And it wouldn't let me play the song. And I'm just sitting there and She, of course, she was always messed with. The gang stalkers, they'll do whatever they can. They'll slip something in your drink or put something in your food or lie or set you up, whatever. And they will try to get you angry. And Nick is right. You can't do that, man. Then, not even if you don't, get in trouble with the law or whatever, I've noticed that, there's that connection between the perp and the spiritual dimension. And it's like they work in unison together. Of course, that's their little fingers in the world. And then, of course, then they do something, and then they can, you don't even have to have a human being around you after you get emotional. It's like I don't know. I mean, I'm speculating. We don't have all that information, but you wonder if what are the demons getting out of this stuff? I mean, I know that the end game, they want to destroy you or whatever. They want to take you to hell. They want to deceive you, but are they feeding? They get off on the the energy. A lot of people will talk about that. They're attracted to it. I don't know. I mean, there's different kinds of it. I mean, I'm speculating, but it's possible. And it seems like it, because I know that when I get angry or I get emotional, and it happens, you forget. Like I said, you're skipping along. And I've even had this, physical effects where it's, it was like I had all of a sudden, like a sickness for a couple days. When I get attacked by one of these perps, it was like a tag team. You got the little human puppet, and then you got the demons, and they just, after they get you going, then they just, they torment you. They keep you up at night, and you feel sick. You're having all these weird symptoms, and it's that crescendo attack. And I've mentioned too that, sometimes, and a lot of people don't really think about this, but they will, because there's the dimensional perspective. And I've talked about that before when it comes to targeted individuals, whether they believe that these people, are reading their mind, or, they know where you're going or whatever, or your apartment is pre-rigged, or the hotel room that you run to is, it's like they know it's pre-wired. All these things seem to have an element of foreknowledge to it that it's unexplainable. Some people will go into neural monitoring, and they'll read, for instance, some of the stuff that Robert Duncan puts out there. Interesting stuff, but it still can't explain things like that, at least in my opinion. And I've seen it. I've had people tell me things that were going to happen decades in advance, and I know I wasn't talking to a human. Okay, something was talking to me through them. People that I know, maybe even people that I know intimately. And it's like, who the hell are you? And then all of a sudden, all these things are going on. But well, how does that work? Well, they have a dimensional perspective, or they're getting it somehow. And it's enough to freak anybody out. But it's you're dealing with both. And as far as the technology that a lot of people will talk about, I think that was handed to the humans, from the spiritual dimension, just like the stuff in Genesis 6. So I don't, because I wonder about that too, because you'll be dealing with something, and it's like, well, you speculate about it. This really wouldn't take a living entity in order to do this, because you see the equations. After a while, you see what you're dealing with as a targeted individual, So what I'm getting at is that we'll just say there's an event coming. Okay, we'll say they know, and I've used this example before. They know you're about to experience, maybe something abrasive, or something's going to happen, or whatever. A lot of targets will talk about feeling a sense of significance, or their mood will change, and then something will happen. They will have all these weird thoughts coming into their mind, and then an ambulance drives by their house, or something happens, and you get these people coming and rodding their vehicles around them. And it's like, how does all this stuff work? And it's enough to put them into a very high state of anxiety. It's almost like they knew or something. But is that really what's going on? Maybe it's just something spiritual, and they know what's going to happen, so they cook up the mood around you And then you're going to read into the circumstances when, you would have just been doing regular stuff before that without the demonic or the technological invasion, and it wouldn't have had any significance. There's all kinds of speculation, but they can cook that up, so they could do that. In fact, I was watching a video earlier today. A guy was talking about, he called it gay ultra, for a version of MK Ultra, in the sense that he was getting a lot of, I don't know, in his mind it was demonic and possibly V2K that had to do with a homosexual narrative, right? So all the stuff, and he's like, I'm not gay, what's up? And then he's getting the directed conversations and stuff like that, and he's like, what's going on with this? Do these people really believe that I'm gay? And of course they do that on purpose. I think Nicholas Bosserman has had similar, not the homosexual, but he's had other accusations, and I know other targets have talked about that. A lot of targets will talk about being accused of being a sexual offender or a drug dealer or whatever, and it's like, what's going on with this? It's not true. And of course, it's designed to promote anxiety in the victim, because it's there's all the ego and everything at play, and there's the mechanism that they take advantage of. Just as far as who you are, how you see yourself, and it's just a tactic of degradation and fear, right? But of course that's going to unnerve anybody. But they will use those correlations, and they will create circumstances around something before it happens. We'll use the example of my radiator, right? Now they could have done something, like they could have woke me up in the morning and started in on me with something. Do you really believe God loves you? Do you think this is ever gonna? Maybe you're cursed. Maybe this, that, the other. Try and get you in a negative mood. Throw some chain anchors in your way, and then we'll just hypothetically say you start buying into it, and then they'll change it all. Well, you doubted God, then all of a sudden you got this mechanical problem, or you experience some kind of a setback or a health problem or whatever, and it's because of that, right? It's like what targets will deal with as far as the gaslighting, when you have a target to maybe has a substance abuse problem or whatever, and of course they deal with stress, maybe with alcohol or whatever, and well, no, this is this is for your own good, and we just want to help you, and you got to maybe you should go see a psychiatrist or whatever, but no, you got to quit doing this, you got to quit doing that, you got to get to work. And then of course they harass you at work or whatever, and they might even let you get up and pretend that they are trying to help you, but then they'll start messing with you. They'll start playing unorthodox games with you all of a sudden, and not until you start trusting them and you're making progress or whatever, and then they'll drive you into that place where you're going to be tempted again. It's just a never-ending game of psychic vampire and gaslighting. But they will use those type of games, and when it comes to this this whole ordeal about targets being accused of deviance and everything, well, that's designed to provoke that emotional response, right? And depending on what you're dealing with, some targets, after being covertly drugged or dealing with deprivation and just the isolation alone, if it wasn't for the my ability to go live, I'd just be sitting here and thinking about who knows what, trying to find a YouTube video to, I don't know, distract me or whatever, and it has an effect, let alone having people, give you directed conversations that are hostile or threatening. And that's usually what happens when targets get that trauma that is needed. And of course, we've talked about some of the motives for that, and how even in MK Ultra, I don't think that humans thought this stuff up. I think it's evil to the point where it's a way to make people vulnerable to the spiritual dimension, heavy oppression, and even possibly possession, or people split in their personality, they derealize and they disassociate because of all the trauma. It's basic science, but that makes them vulnerable. And if nothing else, it gives them a way to trigger you. And targets are sensitized, and but there's a lot of spiritual stuff going on with that. I'm trying to find my reader here so I can get back into the comments. Okay, I do believe I'm keeping up with some of the comments here. Okay, Ernie's got a good one. I'm trying to see what kind of context that would go along with that. Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, so we'll look at that one. Ernie says, R&M is real. One time I was walking up and the V2K I got said that Whitney Houston was dead. And later that day, I watched the news and found out that she had died. That's a good example. That's a good example. And then we move on down. And at the time, I thought I had psychic abilities. That's a really good example, Ernie. And that's what happens with the secret societies and the occult. You know, as I mentioned, the witching hour in the title. It's a way to bewitch people. And that's the perfect example of how it happens. Or even when you get into cults and stuff like that, when somebody thinks they're a prophet or whatever, and they know that stuff. I mean, I've had some real weird stuff happen, guys, to the point where, you know, if I wouldn't have known, I would have thought something like that too. You know, in fact, there was people around me back when I was a lot younger who thought I had psychic abilities, right? There was one guy that I always wondered if he didn't, put me, because this guy joined the Navy or something like that. I think it was either Air Force or the Navy. I think it was, but he was really smart, and we used to study together. But we'd hunt and everything, and we'd go out hunting. But he got into black ops, right? Secret programs and stuff like that, which I didn't know a whole lot about that, but when I'd take him out hunting, I would really freak him out. And it was something that I just grew up dealing with. It wasn't even a gift or anything like that. Who knows what the hell it was? Probably something demonic. But we would be out stalking some deer, and we'd be following them around maybe a couple miles out into the coulees. And I'd tell him something like, okay, I have a feeling that, this time when we go over the hill, they're going to be sitting there. And he'd be like, how do you know that? And I just have a feeling. I say, and it was right just about every time, literally. And it freaked him out. But it's, it used to be that way for me. All right. This other guy did the same thing. I go, well, let's stop and have a sandwich here. And he's like, no, we got to go find some, we got to find out where the deer are. I said, I know where they are. They're going to be up right over there. And I sat back, ate the sandwich, and we went up there, and they come jumping out in front of us and everything. And it was, did I really know that though? But I had a feeling. Okay, what is that though? It's nothing. The moon is made of green cheese. Doesn't mean anything, but you have that weird stuff. But sometimes I wonder if that guy flagged me, because he kept telling me that I needed to go talk to, like the military or something. He wanted me to go join with him. And I wouldn't do it. But, targets will talk about that kind of thing, whether they get to directed conversations that have that kind of stuff in it, or they're getting V2K like Ernie, or demonic stuff, that's how I process it. But I've had a lot of that stuff happen too. And it makes, you try to figure out what's happening. Most of the people in the secret societies that get up in the higher levels are completely bewitched by that type of destiny philosophy that comes out of that hidden knowledge and secret wisdom. That's when you get into astrology, or soothsaying, or whatever, tarot cards, all that stuff. It's all the same. Okay, it's not a joke. I think Targeted Patton talked about that one time in a live stream, of how there's so accurate information in there. Well, yeah, but who needs? You really want to know what's going to happen tomorrow? Bad enough where you're going to, commune with the demons and stuff like that. But a lot of people don't know what it is. They don't know. They think it's the stars, or, some type of, central force, or the I don't know, the monad or whatever, or something like Star Wars, and you just don't know. I mean, I used to wonder that kind of stuff when I was growing up, but I was exposed to that stuff when I was a kid, and they would do that to me and my family. So they told us about you. I was just a little kid too, just a tiny little kid, man. They told us what you were gonna. They would. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you a story about a little boy, and this is what's gonna happen to you. And they told us, and it's just creepy, And you, what do you do though? But that's funny. That Ernie said that he was thinking maybe he had some kind of gift or whatever. Yeah, that's what happens to people that are involved in the occult, right? And a lot of the people that get into these readings, or they go see the guru, and they get sucked into it because it itches their ears and it makes them excited. They want to be special. We all do. That's one of our biggest weaknesses. That's and you grow up, you start playing guitar. Well, I'm going to be a rock star, or you get into sports and school. I'm going to be Michael Jordan, or what? It's always this big, huge fantasy where you make it to the top, and some people do, but it's one of our weaknesses. We have a propensity to have those delusions of grandeur, and have the Dunning-Kruger effect all around our life. But getting back into that government thing, a lot of people will have all this weird stuff happening to them, to where they get the break-ins, or they get other things going on, or they go out in the country and they try to get away, but they still experience the attacks. You got to speculate how it's happening, where someone will have maybe a lump appear somewhere on their body. You don't know what's going on. I've had that kind of thing happen to me, and something was even cut out of my ear. A lot of scar tissue and some other stuff going on there. And it's just creepy. It was there for decades, and then I finally detoxed from the benzos. I used to be addicted to tranquilizers. It took like 2 years and 8 months, and the next thing I know, somebody gets in the trailer where I was living. They get in there, and I wake up. There's blood all over the pillow, and so that's the cut on the back of my ear. Still opens up. It isn't completely healed, and that's quite a while ago. It's a long time ago. That was in 2016. And sometimes it still opens up. Even this year it did. It's creepy. You speculate, is it from radiation or something, or what the hell is going on? I've seen a lot of weird stuff like that. People will talk about that. There's people out there that talk about different types of implants now. They're a lot smaller, a lot of weird stuff going on. And you don't know. You don't know if it's something that the demons just want you to believe, so you look nuts, or is it really some kind of because there's a collusion, there's an amalgamation between the human element and the spiritual element, and a lot of people it's either got to be one or the other. Well, it's both. It always will be. When you're dealing with this stuff, you have the human puppets and you have the puppet masters. Period. That was a good example, Ernie. Let's see what else is out there. Okay. All right. Okay, Charlie Wilson says, I got arrested for supposedly threatening a volunteer fire department person. 4 years adjudicated, probation, terrorist through. Gosh. Oh, that's horrible. And it sounded like it was hearsay unless something happened. Ooh, I just had one of those deja vus. I swear we've done this before. I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm not. But I'm gonna keep going with it. Okay. Uh-huh. It looks like we got a perp in the live stream, Nick. Whatever. I'm assuming he's out there. Okay. Anyway, let's see here. I'm looking for something in the comments. Nicholas Boserman says, I wish they'd change. I don't want anyone to burn for eternity. Of course not. Of course, we don't want that. And I've mentioned that, when it comes to the kingdom of darkness, one of the things that happens to people that get involved in this whole thing, whether even in the secret societies, that they're making oaths, so they're getting their hands dirty, right? They're pronouncing curses upon themselves if they ever turn, right? If they are ever to divulge the secrets, so may their guts be ripped out and their tongue, ripped out or what. They got all these weird, and that's the way it works, right? And it's the way it works in witchcraft. It's the way it works with targeted individuals. I mean, think about the deterrence level that is there because they see what's happening to you, right? Nobody wants to be driven crazy. And it's going to be worse for them because, especially if they know about the demonic puppet masters, right? Because, if they did it to you and you really didn't even deserve it, what's going to happen to a gang stalker if they turn against these, puppet masters that are out there doing this stuff to you? You haven't done anything to anybody, right? Targeted individuals, they may have some things in their past. Maybe they bullied somebody as a kid or something, but they're not out as adults doing this kind of stuff. Think of the culpability that is there, right? If they can get leeway to do that to somebody like you, I mean, I try to be nice to everyone, but yet, I get all kinds of hell, and I've been getting that since I was a kid. A lot of people would say, "Man, what's up with that?" I used to, a lot of my friends back when I was younger. I mean, I got popular after the age 16. From 16 to my mid 20s, early 20s, I was pretty popular. Before that, I was I'd hang around with some of the guys from the in crowd, but it was like they had to hide the fact that they were my friend. Because there was so much hostility out there. Targets will talk about, getting targeted from the time that they're kids. I was definitely one of those people. And I would be friends with some of the cool people, but they would have to hide me. I'd be the guy that they would invite over to sleep over, at their house over the weekend. But we would just hang out and, play video games or watch movies, but nobody would know. Nobody would know we were really friends. And when it came to school or whatever, they would have to, they'd tell me to. If I don't say anything, it's nothing against you. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why people are the way they are. Dude, why are people like this? You don't even do anything to anybody. It would just mystify them. But, a lot of targets will deal with that. And let's see what else is out there. Okay. Anyway. But getting back into the witching hour aspect of gang stalking, there are different perps out there, and I've talked about who they are before, and I've talked about just the regular people that you're dealing with, and there's always a bunch of coincidences around these people. They always accuse. They love to flip your reality. They love to distort your reality. There's always a lot of coincidences around them. They always deny. They play stupid. They will reframe everything and they will minimize targets. They will always obfuscate their activity with plausible deniability. They will. They love leverage. You get involved with somebody who's got leverage over you, and that's not a good scenario to be in. And as far as the resources, targets are up against quite a bit. They can be pretty sadistic. They can be very greasy and sarcastic. And when they get inquisitive and try to, get the target talking, that's dangerous. I mean, some targets are provoked and they like to yank your chain, but some of the infiltrators and the clever ones they have the key questions and try to get you talking. Right? They'll use that CIA technique to where they'll use awkward silence or make you feel obligated to answer a bunch of questions. They like to intimidate, torture, provoke, sensitize, discredit. They're fake. They have to be. Sometimes they're, they'll put on an act. They'll either pretend like they're trustworthy or they're meek. And then, once they get your trust, then all of a sudden, they'll pull the flip, or they can be real flamboyant. Maybe like Reese off the movie Fallen, whistling and singing and stuff like that, and kind of strutting around. You deal with one like that, and you're in for a nice little game. You can't really show any fear. They will camouflage themselves. They are intrusive, abrasive troublemakers, and they will use all kinds of different techniques to gain either your trust or your traumatized distrust. They would use unorthodox techniques, obnoxious behavior, things that don't even make sense. I've mentioned the story before where I met a guy who thought he had schizophrenia, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, I just imagine people are saying things to me. And then later he took me aside and said, man, how come I'm not imagining you saying these things to me? If I'm really crazy, how come, if I was really hallucinating, how come you're not doing it? How come I'm not imagining you say these weird things? And, because it's like the stuff Nick talks about, or other targets will talk about, where they come up and say something that's just crazy or sexual or perverse, or is this nothing that, if you tried to tell anybody, this is what this person's, doing, they'd be, well, why would they say that? Like when Nicholas Bostrom got approached and said, you're going to be a pedophile or whatever. And it's like, what? If you tried to tell somebody that, they'd be like, why would they say that? Oh, I don't know. And of course, they'll just deny it. But this guy was getting a lot of that weird stuff, and it was happening at his workplace constantly. And it really pissed him off. But, we finally figured it out, man. He was not hallucinating. And he thought he was crazy. He had literally been gaslighted by that whole thing, completely bought into it, taking meds and everything, man. The covert perp, yeah, they like to play those games, and there's such a magnitude of people around the target and individual that are giving them this type of stimuli that it's easy to get put under the spell, if you will. It's almost like witchcraft when you get into this heavy gaslighting that targets deal with. And even when I started doing this stuff, there was a lot of talk of witchcraft, but now it's more, there's still a lot of guys out there that talk about the witchery and the black magic and the Satanism, and because it's all amalgamated. Can't get rid of it. They want to, though. They want to obfuscate that and just say it's all nothing but computers and whatever. But you are dealing with the government. You're dealing with the FBI, the CIA, MK Ultra. You got the COINTELPRO. You've even got things that a lot of people will speculate have to do with literally taking people out. A type of hit squad. No touch torture and murder for the whistleblower. domestic solutions for whistleblowers. We'll get rid of them. The death squad. And there is a lot of black ops stuff out there. The CIA, the NSA, NATO, DHS, the FBI. But when you get into the occult, man, that's really the creepy stuff. And they have more of a, I don't know, like a female hierarchy. There's guys involved in that. Really, when you get up into the higher levels, like the committee or the royals or the special council. You move on down into the Grand Master and the Grand Master Mother and the Mothers of Darkness and the Sisters of Light and all that stuff. The witches, the novice. It's just creepy. But it's real. The occult is definitely real. Witchcraft is real. It's not the way they believe it, though. I mean, they believe that they're the ones that have the power. But of course, they're just human beings that have been bewitched. They're the little oicoterians. They are the little flesh puppets, that are being used to attack you. And it's like the directed conversations that targets deal with. As long as you're within earshot, right? Just like you're listening to my voice right now. Well, that's all it takes. For me, some of the things that I talk about are repetitious, and I'm trying to counteract all the things that you're getting, whether it's the electronic stuff or the demonic stuff or the directed conversations from the puppet, down from the puppet masters. But it's a process of repetition and traumatization. But there was a lot of witchcraft and Satanism and stuff like that when I was dealing with this whole thing, where they would, they'd show up and there'd be a bunch of them. They'd start talking about things, and they'd have little trinkets or whatever. They'd have different symbols and words and stuff like that. There was, I don't know, a lot of talk of collecting DNA or hair or fingernails, things like that. Because back when I was dealing with this stuff, now the popular thing is, you're dealing with a directed energy weapon. Right? It's the first thing that people gravitate. They gravitate towards. I had this sensation, I had that sensation, and I got a panic attack, or I got woke up in the middle of the night, or I was doing whatever. Maybe they are. Maybe it is. I mean, even if it is, it's, like I said, it's from them. But when I was doing this stuff earlier on, that wasn't really the go-to. It was the witches, and it's because it's different now. But that was the directed conversations. That was the street theater when I started doing. We got some hair out of your bathroom. Or you'd go out on a date, and the girl would try and do something, or I put it on my makeup and now it's on you, or they would try and collect the bodily fluids or whatever and do something with it, or they would talk a lot about oral sex and how that was a way for them to literally do the vampire thing on guys. And that they would make them vulnerable to the demons, and it was just creepy stuff, But now it's more, there's still people out there that talk about this stuff, but that was really what I dealt with. And it was just, they're putting spells on your house, they're cursing objects, they're putting mojo on your clothing, or following you around at the laundromat and, throwing the hex powder on your clothing. And it's just weird stuff to deal with. Now people are more focused on maybe smart dust or nanotechnology or, directed energy weapons. And it's not as much of an emphasis. But when I was doing that, it was creepy. And they would show up. They would show up and run around the house when something would happen. I remember one time I got covertly poisoned a guy was selling me some supposed tie locks, and I was in pretty bad shape. I ended up having to go get my stomach pumped and everything. But as soon as they started feeling the effects of that, which I've had them put stuff in my drinks and stuff like that before too, and it would just, hit you like a brick, and your stomach would just, you'd be doubled over in pain. Oh my gosh, God help me. And they'd be running around the house, laughing. I'd all show up, right? Revving the car engines and, just, in droves, banging on the walls, yelling. And it was crazy. It was just beyond anything. And it really happened. It happened multiple times. I don't know if any of you guys have experienced that stuff, but yeah, it was wild. Of course, we didn't have phones or anything like that. Back then, we didn't have the smartphones or any of that stuff. And I must have lost my little magnifying glass here. That's info. I found it. Sorry about that. Want to see if anything is out in the comments. Okay, Charlie Wilson. Is there some kind of witchy thing with having sex with a female while they're on the period because they had to do it? Yes, there is. That's something that's you're not supposed to do that. In fact, I think it's biblical that while a woman is on her period, that it probably has to do with bloodborne diseases and other things, but that was considered unclean, and she was not allowed in certain places or to engage in certain activities while that was a factor, let alone having sex during that time when she's having her period. So yeah, they do that kind of stuff. I don't know specifically what it is because I don't study up witchcraft. I think it's dangerous. There are people out there that would probably know the answer specifically to that. But because even you don't even have to do that. Even just the fornication or adultery, stuff like that. Other things that have to do with sodomy. That's a popular one, and they'll do that. That's what they do, man. They get you into that level of culpable. I don't know, that legal situation, and it is like that with the Kingdom of Darkness when you're dealing with an infiltrator or you're dealing with a gang stalker. They want to provoke you and get you to do something so you can be accused, so that the spiritual dimension can amalgamate that in with the modus operandi of your condemnation, accusing you and taking you into a place of internalization. And they will deprive you, and they will provoke you, and they will gaslight you, and they will hound you and torture you, and deceive you, and use all kinds of different techniques on the victim. Sometimes it's not even unpleasant. Sometimes it feels positive, where you think you're moving into a place where you found the solution, or you found peace, you found the answer, you found the group of people, you found the spouse or the girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, but it's just a trick. And you get lulled into that thing, and then the next thing you know, it's all hell's breaking loose. All right, you have sex with your partner, and she's trying to talk you into doing something weird, or he's trying to talk you into doing something creepy, or she's on her period, or it's just that's what happens. It's degradation, and it's all that the culpability that goes along with it. It's just like when they get into the skull and bones, that people talk about sodomy, when they had to disclose all these different secrets to each other, and Aleister Crowley was into that too, supposedly in the occult, engaging in the act of sodomy with someone of the as far as the males is concerned, is a type of, I don't know, it's like a humiliation thing, to where you are humbling yourself and preparing yourself to contact some type of deity or something. And it's evil, right? It's just wrong. and you know it is, and it goes against nature, and it's an abomination of the Bible. And they do that. That's one of the things. And one of the guys, in fact, that did that with Alistair, I guess they were out in the desert, and they, were going through all this weird stuff to ascend to the next level of whatever, to contact or summon some type of demon or something like that. And so they did this thing. They committed sodomy against with each other and all this. And the other guy, I guess, went crazy. He lost his mind, and he was never the same ever again. And you get into a lot of weird stuff when it comes into that. Hitler, he was also into some very perverse sexual things, to where the only way you could explain it is a type of demonic infiltration, right? And it's creepy, the stuff that people talk about that are in the occult, and some of that stuff is like that. So I would assume if you got, you shouldn't be committing fornication anyway, but if you got some kind of girlfriend, and I've seen that stuff firsthand, man. There was a girlfriend, if she's trying to talk you into doing something like that, you don't want to do that. And there probably is some kind of weird witchy thing going on with that, man. But I had a girlfriend trying to talk me into going to a graveyard and having sex. And I couldn't figure out what the deal was. I was like, why would we do that? Oh, no, it'll be great. We can get some wine and we can go up there and it'll be romantic. I'm like, well, what are we going to take a mattress or something? I'm like, sure, why not? And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. But there was more to it, man. Evidently, it was some kind of weird hex or some weird thing, or at least they believe it is. Where you're having sex around all these dead people. It's creepy, Or you get, so this one girlfriend that I had, she all of a sudden she wanted to do the sodomy thing. I'm like, why? Really? And but that's all it was. It was just some kind of trick. And these people are evil. I've talked about this too before, that as far as the manufacturing of some of the things that targets deal with, you hear about love spells or different incantations and stuff, which is basically it is demonic. Like I said, these people really don't have power, and they will do those things, and it all kind of amalgamates together. But some of the things that you probably because like the V2K, you think, well, that's just coming into your mind. You're being assaulted with that. And some of the stuff that you start thinking about, or some of the ideations that you have, or the motivations, or even obsessions, can come from the demonic realm, right? And you can get put into a place where you might gravitate or fall in love with someone who is basically sent to corrupt you, man. Right? You might have an ideation, even from about some girl or whatever that you went to school with when you were a kid, and you've been thinking about it, and they'll just keep pushing that into your mind, and then you're going to run into her later, or him, or whatever. And then, the whole thing is, it comes out later, and you get the directed conversations, or you find out that you're dealing with a honeypot that's more than just somebody who's working for the government or whatever. She's literally influenced demonically, or he is literally influenced by the spiritual dimension, and you deal with that, and it's like, whoa. And so you're looking at a literal plan to mess with your mind and move you into a place where they've got this scheme to throw at you, man. And I've seen it. So yeah, you really got to be careful as a targeted individual. Let me go back into the comments to see what else is out there. "666 Vampire Chris says, I hear messages from angels that help me, but they told me something too crazy, like how Satan is getting so much power over targeted person." Well, I'm going to warn you right now, not to receive any messages coming from anywhere but the Bible. Okay, And then, like I said many times, they have bewitched the hierarchy of this world. They know how to do that stuff, and it seems like it's working. It seems like they're trying to help you, but that's just to get you listening to them. All right, that's in my opinion, that would be demonic. I would watch out from that. I would stay away from that. There's, it always happens. A lot of, especially for people in the charismatic movement, they will get involved, or even, the hyper charismatic movement, they will get involved. They will have an experience in one of those churches, and then they'll God is talking to me. The Holy Spirit is talking to me. I had that happen to me, and it was not God. It was not an angel. It was not something good. It was not. But I didn't know that. And then you see all these people out there that, oh, God gave me a dream, or God told me this, and it's not. But they really believe that, and people always learn the hard way. It's very unfortunate. For me, after all the things that I've seen concerning the occult and everything, I don't pay attention to dreams. I don't pay attention to any voices. I don't pay attention to somebody who comes up and says they have a message for me from God or anything. And I've had that. And I certainly don't pay attention to the street theater, because that stuff gets creepy too, and the direct conversations, because it's the same. And it will involve things that will get your attention, whether it's things that haven't happened yet, or things that no one should know about, just like the stuff that, and I'm not, endorsing Catholicism or anything, but Catholic priests use a specific criteria, because I've watched a lot of their, documentaries and videos. It's interesting to see, what's going on. I don't hold to it. I don't believe in relics or holy water or any of that. I think it's ridiculous. But some of the criteria that they have, like, people speaking in languages that are ancient or whatever, or knowing things that people should not know about, having that information is the same stuff that targets deal with, right? And they're not speculating that they're under the control of some type of supercomputer. That stuff has been documented, and it's been documented way back into history. And it's freaky when targets get that kind of thing. It's not just from, supposed angelic beings or voices. Sometimes it's the perps, and sometimes it's the honeypot. It's the witch. And it is the witching hour. What time is it? Oh my gosh, it's almost 4 a.m. here. Get back into the comments here. I'm probably going to have to go to bed here pretty quick. Yeah, Charlie Wills says graveyard sex. Not my, yeah. I didn't do it, man. I don't know. There was a lot of people that were warning me about that girl. And the creepy part is, well, I shouldn't even tell you this, but when I was a little kid, I walked by her and her mother going into a store, and her mom was into that weird stuff. And she goes, there he is right there. And it was, you get some weird stuff as a targeted individual, man. And that was like, gosh, that was probably, 19 years before any of that happened. And there were people that, they play up that little game. And then, you get all the people who were influenced demonically, and they all start coming out of the woodwork and playing the street theater game and the direct conversation game with you. But there were people telling me about that, warning me. And it was all just a crescendo. It's all a setup, man. It's a mind game. That's what it is. And you're supposed to read into it. It's just evil. It's manipulation. If you're dealing with that stuff and people are doing that, I wouldn't focus so much on the black magic or the witchcraft aspect of it. I would just look at it as a way to manipulate you and freak you out and get you, jumping around and wondering about stuff. Just draw near to God. That's the answer. And just don't even think about that. Don't even worry about it. Don't start studying witchcraft or anything like that. Don't try to figure out the occult. Just get into the Bible, and that's your solution. Even if it's V2K, that's your solution. In fact, that guy that I was talking about earlier when he was talking about Gem, or the gay ultra instead of MK Ultra, that he was getting assaulted with that, and he was not homosexual, and I believe him. And they will do that because they know it'll freak you out, right? That's what they do, and a lot of targets will be accused of that stuff, and some of that stuff is even used in the smear campaign. That's because not everything is just demons. They need people to go around and do stuff. They will manipulate. Not everybody's possessed, right? And I've talked about that before. That you get people that show up in your neighborhood or whatever, in different geographical locations, and they might even look like they're working for the government. Maybe they are, but they'll do that, and they'll spread that kind of rumor around about you. It just depends on what they're doing, because they have to create that hostile environment around the target. They don't want people to like you. They want them to hate you. They want you to be scared, and they want the people that are doing this to feel justified, and they'll manufacture the justification for this stuff. Ernie says God is the only answer. I would say that's true. I would totally agree with that. I mean, what hope does a target have in the technological explanation only? It's very frustrating, because I would get accused of just wasting everybody's time by saying, "Well, I want to talk about solutions, and we got to get this." Really? So you believe that there's this huge government cabal with unlimited untold resources, involving the secret societies like Freemasonry and everything else, and the Illuminati and the deep state, and they've got all this stuff, and it's just this big, huge New World Order, military-industrial complex, trilateral commission, experiment, conspiracy. And what do you want me to do about that, right? If there is no God, there's no hope, right? Period. Or you get people that deal with the reptilians. There's some truth to some of that. There's a kernel of truth to that when you get into the genetic manipulation back into the Nakash and the Seraph. Back in, you get into the Ethiopian Book of Enoch and some of those things where they had different genetic, outcomes out of some of the stuff that they were doing, like Akhenaten and Aphrodite and some of the genetic stuff. But, if that was really, that's it. There is no hope. If there's just this big, huge, tyrannical New World Order, no God, nothing, just a bunch of these very advanced, supercomputers and cryogenic chambers that have the ability to do everything from, give you heart palpitations to make you fart and read your mind and all this other stuff. What are you going to do? Scalar waves that you can't block and everything. And they're getting mad at me because they want solutions. There is no solution in that. Not to mention that you have to look into archaeology and you have to look at biblical prophecy in order to see this stuff is really real. And there's obvious, the problem of evil will always be there. And, you can't explain this stuff. It's all amalgamated together. You got to have the spiritual dimension. Well, you got a problem now. You were chosen, says John the Baptist. And John the Baptist says he chose you before you chose him. Well, that's a bit of an issue. Now you're taking the words of Christ out of context. When he said that to his apostles, he was not talking about a soteriological or a salvation subject. And the apostles were chosen. That was more of a job description, and they were chosen specifically for that. God does do that, but to take that into an area of salvation or targeted individuals, that's a problem. And Calvinists will do that. They'll say, well, it says right, Jesus said that they didn't choose him, he chose them. So now we're into unconditional election, God ordaining everything and mysteriously passing over other people. And it makes no sense. And you can't turn this stuff into a soteriological doctrine. And so when you take the words out of context, now you're creating something that doesn't exist. Okay? God chose the apostles, but he also chose Judas, right? Is Judas saved? Nope. No, he wasn't. But he was chosen. Okay, so you got a problem now, right? Israel was chosen, but of course they failed and they went through the 5 successions of judgment. Is God done with them? No, no, no. But they experienced judicial hardening, and right now they have the veil of Moses over them, and he chose them so that his purpose of election would come true. And his purpose of election, talked about in Romans chapter 9, with the noble purposes and the common purposes, did not have to do with salvation. That had to do with the Christ. Because when God started over with Abraham after the Tower of Babel, when the nations were handed over to the principalities and powers according to their number, he had to bring forth the Christ. It's like a lot of people will speculate in the Genesis 6 account with the mingling of angels and human beings, that they were trying to destroy the possibility of the seed of the woman prophecy from the Garden of Eden, who is Jesus, right? And if they could stop that, then they wouldn't have to worry about the Messiah. Or if they could obfuscate the truth about God incarnate, when the sign of the woman or the virgin would have child, which was a sign for the Jews, and the Pharisees obfuscated all that stuff and said, no, we're just going to have some guy come and he's going to be like a warlord and he's going to take us into prosperity and victory. And that's why Jesus called him the synagogue of Satan, because they obfuscated that and changed the calendar. I've talked about that before too. But the purpose of God's election was to choose Abraham so that through his lineage, you'd have the Christ. It got nothing to do with salvation. And, you do have the responsibility to choose to believe the gospel. And people are not just chosen to be saved. Okay, God does a lot of things, but that I would have to disagree with that adamantly. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Well, it's getting pretty late, guys. And I think it's time that we end the live stream. But I'd like to thank everybody for participating. I'd like to, put my request out there for a speedy fix on my vehicle. I got to get that thing taken care of. And also for some physical problems. I've been having problems with my knees and on my back and everything. I got bad arthritis. Just in case you guys cared to put it in your prayer list, I would ask for that. And also for Bora Bora out there, who has recently lost a family member, and all the targeted individuals who are suffering and dealing with persecution. And I'd also like to thank everybody who helps support me and the channel. The link is always in the description. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Guys, God bless. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.